All right, guys, we're going to talk about argument today. If you'll turn in your book to page 450, if you notice on your Mod H notes, we're going to be talking about what strategies can I use to read an argument effectively from pages 450 to 463. So if you take a look at pages 450, we'll start there with what is an argument. Okay, notice the first example of an argument. It's arguing that the library hours should be extended to weekends. So think about here at Nash, what would be beneficial or detrimental to extending the library hours to the weekend? So argument is a line of reasoning that's trying to be persuasive, okay, and it's trying to persuade the reader to take a certain viewpoint or even an action. So, for instance, we might amend this to make it an action and not a viewpoint. So we might say, therefore, students should lobby the president to extend library hours. So that's an argument that requires you to take action. This one is just one that requires you to take a viewpoint, or is trying to persuade you to take a viewpoint on an issue. So there are several parts to an argument. The first part is the issue. You got to pick the issue or controversy that you want to address. A lot of times in a regular essay, this is called the topic. But you can't argue all topics. For instance, you can't argue, the fact that I have brown hair. That's not, really an argument. That's an issue of fact. So that would be a topic. But you might talk about, what hair might be better. So make sure that you address an issue that is multifaceted and has lots of sides to it. And then you take that issue and you make a claim about it. So a lot of times it's maybe a problem and you offer a solution. Sometimes you might do something like a pro or a con. So like gun control, people are usually for or against. The war in ISIS, people are for or against. The way that the government's handling the economy, people are for their strategies or against their strategies. So lots of times there are several points of view about an issue. So, and then the last thing is the support, and that's the type of details that you use to persuade the reader to or make the reader buy into your claim. And it's the same sort of evidence that we've talked about: reasons, evidence. All right, so let's take a look here at the bottom at the issue, claim, and support here. So if the issue is a welfare system, and then the claim that someone is making is that it is unjust and needs to be reformed, the support for the reformation is that people cheat, other people who need benefits can't get benefits, and that it's very costly to taxpayers. So notice that the welfare system, people are very passionate and opinionated about the welfare system. As you look down, you think about the claim. In order to make a logical and thorough claim, you need to have enough support. So just because you have one piece of support, that doesn't make a good argument. You need many, many pieces of support. So for instance, on the next page where you have the idea map about year-round schools are advantageous and school districts should adapt to the full year calendar. The three pieces of support that they should adapt is that the parents work year-round. Year-round schools will strengthen skills, and children get bored with summers off. So what you would do for each of those pieces of support is you would find evidence for that. So you might find statistics, data, personal observations, all of those types of evidence that we've talked about previously in class. And then sometimes arguments include what's called a refutation. You want to acknowledge your opposition and perhaps dispel any ideas that they have that would perhaps be against your claim. So this is very common in arguments for you to acknowledge the people who would oppose you. So, those types of support that are good for arguments, first of all, facts. Facts are things that can be proven to be true. Okay, you have statistics, which tends to be figures, visuals, percentages, averages. These are very common pieces of evidence. You also have quotes and citations. Quotes need to be from experts or authority figures, and you need to include their authority on the subject, what makes them an authority. So, for instance, what makes a doctor an authority on child abuse? Well, he evaluates and sees, he or she evaluates and sees kids every day. Another one is an example of something. So, for instance, an example of a school system that has year-round school that's being successful. That would be great. Personal experience, maybe you have a cousin that you know who attends a year-round school. So personal experience is okay as long as you are establishing yourself or your personal experience as from a point of authority. And then perhaps a comparison. So comparing year-round school to traditional school. Now, as you read arguments, one thing to think about is evaluate how strong the evidence is and is it relevant? Sometimes you'll get evidence and the writer's trying to throw you off or manipulate you. So be sure that you are able to do that. So if you take a look at, for instance, alcohol abuse is common among teenagers and needs to be curtailed. So thousands of young people die each year in alcohol-related crashes. According to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse, young people who drink have an increased chance of developing problems. People who take medication need to limit or cease their alcohol intake. Many teens who drink have a parent who is an alcoholic. So for instance, take a look at C. C has nothing to do with teenagers. It's just people in general. So that one is irrelevant and off topic. Now, when you're acknowledging opposing viewpoints, make sure you think about, as you're acknowledging them, as you read, rather, ask yourself if the author is being clear and fair, that the author is not picking and choosing or what they call cherry picking opposing viewpoints, like the ones that are really easy to dismiss. And does the author refute the opposing viewpoint with logic and relevant evidence? So again, evaluating the evidence and if it's relevant. Some things to think about are ways that writers appeal to you. So for instance, using emotions, sometimes using things that you know that people are emotional about makes a writer biased. So for instance, things about kids, people feel very strongly about. Even some word choices like indulge, refresh, pamper, things that will interest and excite readers. Are they trying to manipulate you in that way? Is the writer trying to manipulate you? False authority, which is when you use a famous person's quote, someone who's famous but who is not an expert. So for instance, Beyonce selling Pepsi. She's not an expert on soft drinks at all. She's a dancer and a singer. So she's a false authority. Also, another type of emotional appeal is an association. So for instance, people associate patriotism. So if someone is saying in an argument that, if you don't support gun rights, you're not a patriot, that's trying to appeal to someone's emotions. There's another appeal called the common folk. So for instance, ordinary people would do this. So for instance, a farmer. Another big one is my mom was a nurse or a police officer or a teacher. That's that common folk mentality that I'm like you should listen to me because of this. Another argument is called ad hominem. That basically means you're attacking the person. And you're attacking maybe their morals, their values, their personal traits. There's another one called bandwagon or join the crowd, which everyone else is doing it, so you should too. So those are some common emotional appeals that you need to watch out for as you read arguments. All right, if you have any questions, please revisit this chapter. Go in and review as you need to, because you will be reading an argument for your next assignment, and your final will be to write an argument. So please study these up.